It is Health Diary. Thank you for making time. My name is Gladys Gashanja and we're coming to you from the Concord Hotel and Suites. Now, May is the Mental Health Awareness Month and today we focus on bipolar disorder. Now, we do not have the exact estimates in as far as the number of those living with this disorder in the country is concerned, but it is said that over 40 million people are living with this disorder worldwide. Now, with the mood disorder that are associated to this condition and that being said to be a high and very common factor for suicide cases, the question is, are those living with this condition, do they have the right support system around them, and can you live with this condition and live a fulfilled life? We answer that question and many others right after the fact of the matter. Bipolar disorder is a mental health condition that causes extreme mood swings that include emotional highs referred to as mania and lows referred to as depression. Manic episodes may include symptoms such as high energy, reduced need for sleep, and loss of touch with reality. Depressive episodes are often characterized by low energy, low motivation, and loss of interest in daily activities. Proper diagnosis and treatment can greatly help those living with bipolar disorder lead a healthy and productive life. Although bipolar disorder can occur at any age, typically it's diagnosed in the teenage years or early 20s. Treatment for bipolar is lifelong and often involves a combination of medications and psychotherapy.
My problem started in primary school. I was always bullied because of very many reasons, like being overweight, and it went on to high school. I was very huge, let's say. Afterwards, when I got to around Form 3, everything started changing because I'll be very low, extremely low, and then at other times I'm extremely high. So when I'm low, I don't want to talk to people, I just want to stay alone. So I tried to commit suicide so many times. I think, if I'm not wrong, it was about 6 times. So accumulating all the stress from high school, my first year wasn't really nice, and thinking that the whole world is out there to get you, I was done with life. It's quite expensive. Like one tablet is about 190 bob, and you need for a whole month. It's a mood regulator, and then this is an antipsychotic, which one of it is 60 shillings. So I technically can't afford it. Thankfully, the university offers a very good medical cover. So when I go and see the doctor, I just pay the consultation fee, and then she writes the prescription. I go to hospital, to the school dispensary, and then they give me the medicine. Now the problem is when I forget to take that medicine, everything changes. The next day, it's either I'll be very low or extremely high. But I'm not ashamed of who I am. I'm not ashamed of who I am.
Well, as you've heard, bipolar disorder is a mental health condition that is very hard to maneuver. But to get more details on how and what it entails to live with bipolar, with me is Edwin Kenywa, who is living with bipolar, and of course, Dr. Janet Kenya, who is a clinical psychologist. Thank you for joining us, guys. Now, Dr. I'll start with you. Most people confuse personality traits and bipolar. For example, you'll hear somebody say, you act very bipolar. One minute you're happy, another one you're sad. What's the difference between the condition and personality traits?
There's definitely a difference between personality disorder and bipolar disorder. Although the two of them are, they can be severe if not treated or using the right treatment plan. But personality is really sort of what you are born with. Now, with the borderline, it's severe as well, but you cannot compare it with bipolar, although the two are kind of, one may fall on one side, because borderline is sort of like, I would say like hourly, people switch in terms of moods very drastically. But with a bipolar, for one to have like a manic episode or a depressive episode, we are looking at also the length of time. And with borderline, the emotions are not really there per se. For bipolar, there's definitely a role of emotions that are being expressed.
Okay, now, Edwin, we're talking about emotions here and just sitting with the guy. I know you're one of the few men who would come out to talk about living with bipolar because of the emotions associated with it. Just give us a glimpse of what your journey has been like. When were you diagnosed with this condition?
Back in 2010, I think I just joined campus. I'd gone in to do pharmacy. So 1 year into the course, I flunked one unit, which was anatomy. And for some reason, the thing really hit me hard. And I just couldn't process how it is that I just didn't, you know, like, do very well in that unit. So really, I went home. When I'm going home, you know, we've closed for the holidays. The semester, the year has ended. So I'm going home. Even when my mom is coming to pick me up, there's something very off. I can't even get into the car very okay. And even way before that, I was feeling very, what's the word? I was feeling very out of place in terms of the things I'm regularly used to doing. Even I had some few roommates all in campus. But then the coach told me, Edwin, what's up with you? All of a sudden, for me, it started off with a depression. But then a lot later, now mom is trying to understand what has come over your son. The son who we've known very well to just, you know, I'll basically even do house chores in the house, help around with stuff. So yeah, 2010, my diagnosis is done. And actually really was bad to the point of I really wondering, why am I really doing this? Why am I here? So I actually try to take my own life at some point.
Most often than not, a misdiagnosis of bipolar is done because they'll only seek help when they are in the depressive episodes.
For one to make a diagnosis, it's not just flipping a page and you say this is what the individual has. There have to be a comprehensive assessment whereby you look at the predisposition in terms of biological predisposition, as well as the environmental and social factors. Because most of the mental illnesses, they have a genetic predisposition. In his case, he could have been predisposed, as you do now, the thorough family history, genetically. However, he's not showing it, and that is why you're seeing everyone wondering, what is wrong with Edwin? This is not the person that we've known. But you also look at now the whole school factor. Could have been now the pressure that acted up as a trigger to all this. Once you're not only isolating yourself psychologically, but also physically. So you're not able even to make a bed. With that now, you'll find now, like Edwin, the suicidal thoughts, they start. With the manic, it's like you're on gear 4, you know, and you want to do everything. You are so hyperactive physically. Psychologically, your thoughts are racing. Even sexually, your libido shoots. Now, after a while, it goes back to the depressive episode. Now, that is where you might see people wondering, okay, make up your mind. Do you want to be happy or do you want to be sad? Yeah.
Okay, now for you, Edwin, the depressive episodes really hit hard. And as you said, they pushed you to a point where you thought of taking your life or tried to take your life. Which of it stays or lingers on longer, the manic or the depressive?
That first episode I had was depressive. But then coming on to 2011, it turned very quickly into a maniac because I was like, hang on, you very nearly wanted to take your life. The suicide note I'd written to my mom really broke her. And I think the energy and the strength and, you know, that self-positive talk that I had was now an overdose. I just became a beast of sorts. coming out feeling like I've wasted 2 years. I'm starting my own companies, telling people, Achievers Club, guys, we can do this. So I can't really tell how long that stayed on, because that is the first episode. Because I've only had like 2 major episodes in my lifetime. Because the other one was only like last year. And again, if I look at last year, the maniac kind of like lingered for only like a month, and then the depression, I'd say last year was longer.
Some of those erratic behaviors we're talking about, or episodes, are a major cause of suicides, and you have walked that. Thankfully, you're still here to tell the story. First, how does the condition push you to that end, and what can be done to avert it if somebody's already diagnosed?
Management is very important. By management, we mean the pharmacological in terms of medication, and definitely psychotherapy, as well as support system. As an individual, you come to a realization where you say, if I don't take these meds, if I engage in self-destructive behaviors, then they worsen my illness. By self-destructive behaviors, I mean we have positive coping mechanisms and negative as well. And so you might find someone who, in the depressive state, would rather isolate and abuse substances. It can also happen during the manic state, whereby they are over now drinking because they are happy and they are overachievers. In fact, most of them don't want medication during the manic state. There are things that the medication cannot be able to treat in terms of the behavior. So, for instance, if it's, you know, you're manic and there's a sale.
Stay away.
Stay away, give out your ATMs, because believe you me, you will go to Tile and Carpet and shop from first floor all the way.
Oh, yeah.
You've spent so much money and you're happy. However, the flip side, you look at your account and you're like, there were like 4 zeros, now it's back to 3. Now, it gets back to now depression. And why you'd hear someone like Edwin saying, for him, the manic state, it's sort of like shorter than the depressive. It's because when you realize this is what you have done, that impulsivity, you want to quickly mend things up. What now we advise, or rather we psychoeducate, not only the identified patient, but also the support system on trigger awareness. What is pushing this person? What is it they are observing before the episode?
Okay, now clearly just listening to this, it speaks on the fact that the support system needs to understand.
Oh, yes.
And even those that are living with the condition need to understand where they're coming from, so that they can also, you know, help themselves in all making these decisions. And we shall come back and talk more about the stigma around it, because if you do not understand it, you do not know how to help those that are living with the condition. Right after this break. Welcome back. Now, March 30th is World Bipolar Day, yet so many people still do not understand what this condition is about, and a lot of stigma comes with it. Now, to have a conversation about living with this condition, still with me, Edwin, and of course we have Dr. Janet Courier. Now, it has costed you, right? Speak on the same.
I was pushed to making a decision because of my condition. And this decision being that sort of like, you know, resign from very lucrative and a good company, or a lucrative job and a good company because of my condition. And either you look at it, it's my condition, because it's a very... The problem, you see, when I fell ill last year, people from my company came to see me when I went into hospital. Because the funny thing is, I know when I need to go to hospital. This is the interesting bit. I'm never one of those you tell, but I need to take you to hospital.
Which is a good place to be.
It's a good place to be. But then, now when that comes to light, and then perceptions of who you are, and the person who was hired, all of a sudden feel like they've altered and shifted, it doesn't make sense. I actually thought about it when I was explaining that to you. It's not really a cost to me, because I feel it's just a door that's closing because of someone who's really naively, ignorantly thinking, Edwin, if we give him a job, he's going to flip. It's like, thinking because I'm bipolar, I'll start saying gibberish and not...
During the conversation,
Exactly.
yeah.
You see, that's the problem I feel in mental health. You kind of think this guy is going to flip anytime. He doesn't know what he's doing. And then the interesting bit is, the major things you'd imagine would really shake me, like the loss of my mom, subsequent loss of my dad in very weird ways. I'm there. No episode, no nothing. I'm going on with life comfortably.
Okay, now Dr. Harry, clearly loss of jobs, loss of relationships. If you're married, marriages have been broken, and the list goes on and on. I mean, what should those around those living with bipolar understand to give them the best support?
I don't see companies trying to look at the weakness of that individual who is physically unwell. In any case, they will visit, they will contribute the money, they will even provide like aftercare. Okay? And it makes even the individual, it doesn't matter you'll be unwell for how long, you'll still be paid, and they'll still visit you, The support is consistent when it comes to physical illness. So the question I have for most of our employers, why is it that because now one is mentally unwell, all of a sudden you assume they cannot perform the duties? When they look at you, the first thing they see is bipolar. It's a mental case. Mwendawazimu, this one cannot manage anything. It makes it very hard for an individual to stay in that environment. So if you're not getting support from home, if you're not getting support from work, what makes you think you won't have those suicidal thoughts? You're basically alone. And so by the time you are like trying to push away a 30-year-old, prime years, it's like you are just looking at the results in terms of paper and not getting to know the individual.
Let's talk about treatment. It often involves a combination of medication and psychotherapy. And all these cost, right? How does that look for you, and which of these two works for you?
It's a bit of both. I mean, I'm a balanced measure of both. There's the chemicals in my head, at times they're just so off, I just need... Before we talk, Edwin, no, we just met first of all, you say. But again, you need alignment of thoughts, because at the end of the day, we're all humans. It's just a condition that's there, but you just need someone who can actually tell you a perspective. You know what I mean? Someone who can actually tell you, yes, you're in this cloud, there's a silver lining to it. Focus on the silver lining, not the cloud. That's what the psychotherapy does.
Okay, so that works, both work, and definitely are very costly. Not everyone can afford it. Okay, and the cost of it. For that person who really need to have a one-on-one with a doctor, what happens if I cannot afford it? What happens to those people seeing that NHIF and maybe insurance companies wouldn't come through for them, or they cannot even afford it?
Nowadays, NHIF is actually covering some of these mental health conditions. And again, also some companies, especially you'll find a company now supporting an individual who is struggling with addiction, and they actually take you to a rehab, and they say we will take care of the expenses and all that. However, like you're saying, there are some who cannot afford, and that's why when we look at working on a mental health machinani sort of like project where let's be out there. Let's go to the individuals who we don't expect them to come to us. And these are the services that really, for most professionals would say, giving back to the society. With empathy and sympathy in place, you will find most of us actually just give the pro bono services.
In your ideal world, how would you prefer those living with bipolar treated?
Ideal world is, don't focus on the bipolar, focus on the person. If you focus on the person, you're going to magnify the things you need to magnify. The proper things that you need to magnify a person, the goodwill, the hard work, the intellect, all this. But when you see the bipolar and you're not seeing anything, you not even see this guy, you as though they can never amount to anything. So stop focusing on the bipolar per se. Focus on it in the right way. If there's any focus, treatment, all these things that we've said earlier on in the show. But don't always have that at the back of your head. This is bipolar, and every time you see Edwin, it's Edwin bipolar. No, it's Edwin.
Gladys, for us to address mental health holistically, it's more of an individual, family, and the society. So when you go to schools, for instance, are teachers well trained to identify a child or a teenager or an adolescent who's going through issues? Because some of the mental illnesses, they manifest in adulthood, but they're stemming from childhood. I think there should be mental health professionals, again, everywhere, or even pastors are equally counselors. So they should be able to say, well, it's the house of God, and don't judge. When it comes to the government budget allocation, mental health is usually there. Cancer, radiotherapy, equipment is here. But you're also forgetting that the same people who are suffering from these physical illnesses, they're predisposed to the depression. Yeah? So I think it's really time to wake up.
True. Edin Kwenyua, living with bipolar, and of course, Dr. Janet Kuria, who is a clinical psychologist, talking about bipolar and the reality of living with this condition. And I love the challenge that you put out there. Those that are living with bipolar need to take initiative in ensuring that you do not indulge in things that aggravate your condition, but also those that are living with bipolar need to give them the right support system, from home to the workplace to the churches, society at large. Thank you guys for having this conversation with me. Time now for the health tip.
A good tip for strong mental health can be to write a journal or draw. Use some way to release some of the thoughts in your mind and get them down on paper so that you can relax your mind a little bit and keep a good mental health and be able to be your best self during the day. So whether you write about what you do each day, or write about what you're thinking, or write about what you want to happen, or whether you draw what's in your mind or what you see in front of you, it can be very helpful and therapeutic for your mind.
A lot of engagement on our social media handles. Please keep them coming through. For any questions, do not hold back. Remember, Daktari and of course Edwin are there to answer some of your questions or help you out in as far as treatment and management of bipolar is concerned. Well, we have been coming to you from the Concord Hotel and Suites. My name is Gladys Gashanja. Until next time, take care.
Can we talk? And you will slap me when I come there.
Hey! Kunoga. So May is a mental... Stop shaking your head, don't let it distract. Sasa sijui kani stop ama niendelee. Alright, sawa sawa.